On the day I was about to give birth, I called my husband in fear, crying and asking him to come back quickly. However, I never expected that the man who was supposed to be at the company had actually gone to the suburbs 100 miles away to climb mountains with his first love. Through the phone, I could even hear the sound of the other person panting with exhaustion as she leaned on my husband. "Husband, my water has broken. Please come back quickly, okay?" Fear and pain consumed my whole body, but instead of receiving comfort from my husband, I got his scolding. I just wanted to come out and relax a bit. "Why are you being so relentless? And your water broke? Why don't you say the baby has fallen out? The due date hasn't even arrived yet. Who are you trying to fool? If you want to go to the hospital so badly, walk there by yourself." When I woke up in the hospital, my husband was kneeling in front of me. "Darling, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it. We can have another baby later." I learned that the baby didn't die but was given away by him to his first love. During the process of trying to get my baby back, I lost my life on the road. Unexpectedly, when I woke up again, I was back on the day of giving birth. The brightness in front of me stung my eyes, then wave after wave of pain woke me up. Looking down, my belly was bulging high. There was a puddle of amniotic fluid on the ground. I was shocked. Enduring the discomfort in my belly, I went to the door to check the calendar. The moment I saw the date of today, I froze on the spot. I was reborn. I was actually back on the day of giving birth again. On this day in my previous life, it took me half a day of excruciating pain to give birth to the baby in my womb. Unexpectedly, before I could even see the baby for the first time, Ethan had given it to his first love. He fainted from crying in front of me, lying to me that the baby had died at birth due to long-term oxygen deprivation in the womb. I believed him and once thought that it was my negligence that had killed the baby. Later, I accidentally learned that my baby hadn't died. But on my way to get the baby back, Ethan tried every means to stop me. During the pushing and shoving, I was hit by a passing car and died on the spot. After death, I didn't disappear immediately. Instead, I stayed by Ethan's side. I watched helplessly as he brought his first love over, forming a new family of 3. The great joy almost made me ignore the pain in my belly. I quickly picked up the phone and was about to rush to the hospital. "This time, I won't let anyone take my baby away." The next second, the doorbell rang, and Ethan's friend was standing outside the door. In my previous life, he had a hand in successfully giving my baby to Ethan's first love. At that time, I called Ethan in fear, asking him to take me to the hospital. But I never expected that he was accompanying jealousy to climb mountains 100 miles away. Facing my request for him to come back, Ethan thought I was just being jealous and throwing a tantrum. I just wanted to come out and relax a bit. "Why are you being so relentless? And your water broke? Why don't you say the baby has fallen out? The due date hasn't even arrived yet. Who are you trying to fool? If you want to go to the hospital so badly, walk there by yourself." He hung up on me, and the pain in my belly was so severe that I could hardly walk. At this time, Sean appeared. He took me to the hospital. He also called Ethan. I thought he was my savior, but I never expected that he was an accomplice in sending away my baby. "Sister-in-law, open the door. I've come to see you and bought you some fruits." Sean was knocking on the door loudly while calling my name. Seeing that I didn't open the door, Sean actually took out a spare key from his bag. I hurriedly locked the door from the inside. As long as I don't go to Ethan's hospital with Sean, I will surely be fine with my baby. My eyes fell on the position behind Sean, and I found the phone number of the neighbor across the hall. "Doris, there's a thief in the building. He opened my door and then went to open yours. Please come back quickly." Sure enough, as soon as she heard there was a thief in the building, Doris hung up the phone in a hurry and was about to rush back. Taking advantage of this time, I went to the kitchen to boil a basin of hot water. I won't make Sean so badly injured that he has to go to the hospital, but it will be enough to make him jump in pain on the spot. Doris's voice could be faintly heard in the corridor. Seeing this, I unlocked the door inside the house. With a click, Sean obviously heard it too. The moment the door opened, I splashed a basin of water on Sean. The person who was already feeling frustrated because he was snubbed at the door and then got scalded by the water immediately cursed angrily. Damn it! Are you crazy? Are you so stupid because you're pregnant? Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death with one punch. I pretended to be scared and fell to the ground, crying while covering my belly. Sorry. It's all my fault. Please let me go. Take anything valuable in the house. Just don't harm the baby in my belly. I'll give you whatever you want. Please let me go. I'm begging you. Sean was spinning around in pain from the scald but still didn't forget to reach out to take me away. Unexpectedly, as soon as he got close, I kicked him away. With this kick, Sean couldn't hold back anymore. Are you crazy? I don't believe I can't take you away today. As soon as his hand grabbed my hair, I started screaming like crazy. My screams filled the whole corridor. Murder! Robbery! Help! Sean was startled by my crazy state. Before he could react, he was stopped by the shouts of a group of people behind him. What are you doing? I was helped up by the neighbors and leaned against the corner of the wall, trembling uncontrollably because of fear and pain. Through the crowd, Sean glared at me angrily. When he looked up again, his expression changed to one of concern for me. I'm a friend of her husband. I came to take her to the hospital. Look quickly. Her water has broken. She's about to give birth. Following Sean's gaze, the neighbors looked at my belly. No. He's not my friend. My husband didn't ask him to come either. Doris, I don't know him. We've been neighbors for so many years. Don't you know me? I'm such an honest person. How could I tell such a lie? With that, I threw myself into Doris's arms and couldn't stop crying. Sean looked quite surprised by what I said, but I was indeed telling the truth. He wasn't my friend, and my husband was still 100 miles away climbing mountains with his first love. He didn't ask Sean to take me to the hospital at all, nor did he have any intention of coming back. She's just scared because it's her first time giving birth. If you don't believe me, I'll call her husband right away. I watched Sean make the call without trying to stop him at all, because I knew that Ethan wouldn't answer the phone. Just during the time when I was boiling the water, I had been calling Ethan continuously. Either the call was hung up or it was picked up by jealousy. As soon as the call was connected, a woman's voice came from the other end. The neighbors didn't know who it was, but Sean and I knew it all too well. Ethan is taking a bath. Call back later. It's Sean. Jealousy on the other end thought it was my call without even looking at the caller ID. She only realized it when Sean spoke. In my previous life, Sean had always liked jealousy. To fulfill her dream of becoming a mother, he colluded with Ethan to snatch my baby away. Sean thought that after getting the baby, jealousy would be with him out of gratitude. He didn't know that jealousy and Ethan had already been having an affair in private. What are you doing? I helped you like this. Is this how you repay me? No, it's not like that. Ethan accidentally fell into the field, so we... Before jealousy could finish her explanation, Sean hung up the phone. Seeing his livid face, I looked up blankly from Doris's arms. Doris, did the woman on the phone just mention Ethan? My husband is cheating on me. Everyone present who heard Sean's call could guess what was going on. Seeing me, a pregnant woman with a big belly, looking so pitiful, the people around couldn't bear it. But Sean stood opposite me, pointing at my nose and calling me an idiot. Yes. Your husband is cheating on you. He not only doesn't want you anymore but also despises your baby. I came here today to send you to hell. You idiot. That phone call had made Sean extremely angry. He thought I was also in the dark. He didn't expect that I had already discovered their affair long ago. The front of Doris's clothes was soaked with my tears. Seeing Sean like this, she finally couldn't hold back. You regarded him as a friend, but he's already slept with your beloved so many times. Lily endured it because of the baby in her belly. What about you? Do you just like being a doormat? I thought it was a thief. Turns out it's a scumbag. Sean, a grown man, was scolded like this by Doris in public. He was instantly both ashamed and angry. Seeing the provoked look in my eyes as I huddled in Doris's arms, He stepped forward to grab my arm and teach me a lesson but was pushed away by the neighbor beside me. I'm just a poor wretch. My husband is cheating on me. I'm about to give birth soon, and now I'm being threatened by this guy. I thought he was a thief. I didn't expect he was sent by my husband to deal with me. Doris, please help me. A pregnant woman with a big belly begging like this. The neighbors looked at me and then at Shonda. I think we should just take her to the hospital directly. Yes, yes, yes. He dares to come and cause trouble right in front of us. What would happen if we left? The neighbors were talking one after another, and Sean was so angry that his face turned red. He pointed at my nose and started cursing. Bitch. You did it on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately let me hear that Jealousy and Ethan were together, didn't you? With that, Sean took off his shoe and threw it at me. It didn't hit me but hit Doris beside me instead. Seeing this, the neighbor couldn't bear it anymore and kicked Sean directly in the stomach. The other person rolled on the ground in pain. Just you wait. See if I won't sue you to death. Before Sean could finish his words, the people around him slapped him one after another. Sue. Sue. We're here to save people, and you're trying to stop us from saving people. Let's see who wins the lawsuit. I think you're just here to make trouble and delay her time to give birth. What kind of good person could be friends with a scumbag? Listening to Sean's pleas for mercy as he was being beaten up on the ground by these people, I was overjoyed. Doris kept comforting me, telling me not to be afraid. When I was standing in the elevator, I looked through the crowd at Sean, who was bruised and swollen on the ground, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Compared with what I suffered in my previous life, this little pain was nothing. Originally, I didn't dare to go to Ethan's hospital to give birth. But when we arrived at the entrance of the hospital, I suddenly changed my mind. When I was sitting in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, I called the rescue team. Please help me. My husband has been missing for a day and a night since he went climbing. I'm about to give birth. The baby can't be born without a father. I was crying and asking the operator of the rescue team for help, just like a wife who was truly concerned about her husband's safety. To record the moment when my husband was rescued by the rescue team, I also specially contacted a journalist. As soon as they heard that someone was missing while climbing mountains, the journalist immediately followed the rescue team up the mountain. They also promised me that they would show me the video they shot as soon as possible. When I arrived at the hospital, I took the initiative to ask the doctor for a cesarean section. I knew that Sean, being beaten up like that, definitely couldn't come to the hospital, and my husband, as my attending doctor, had been lingering with Jealousy until now and couldn't possibly come back in time. If I didn't have a cesarean section, how could they have the chance to secretly take away my baby? The medicine was slowly injected into my body, and I gradually fell asleep. Baby, I'm sorry to make you suffer a little. We'll never be apart again in the future. In my dream, Ethan was holding my baby and smiling at me from a distance. But no matter how hard I ran towards him, it was all in vain, until Jealousy showed up. My baby suddenly grew up, and the three of them, as a family, were getting farther and farther away from me. I woke up from the dream with people already surrounding me. Fortunately, it was just a dream. Ethan was kneeling in front of me just like he did in my previous life. Even the words he said were exactly the same. Darling, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it. The baby, we can have another baby. Ethan's relatives on the side were all speaking up for him. Ethan didn't mean to not come in time. He didn't expect your due date to be earlier either. Yeah. Whether the baby was short of oxygen wasn't something Ethan could decide. It was you who delayed it yourself. It's not that we're blaming you, sister-in-law. Everyone is scared when giving birth. Why didn't you just go with Sean? Enough. Stop talking. Lily didn't mean it. I don't blame her. Ethan interrupted the relative's blame with a look of concern and love for me on his face. Needless to say, I knew that the baby had probably been given to Jealousy by him already. In my previous life, after I knew that Ethan had given the baby away, these relatives of his had a completely different attitude. Ethan is just too sentimental. Jealousy can't have children. Anyway, you can still have more. You two can just have another one. Yeah, although the baby is gone, you still have your husband. Darling, jealousy is so pitiful. I can't just stand by and watch her be depressed because she can't be a mother. My hands under the quilt were clenched tightly together. Everyone was pitying jealousy, but no one cared about how pitiful a mother who had lost her baby was. These relatives wouldn't know the pain until they got slapped in the face. I pretended to be sad and indignant and suddenly raised my hand to slap Ethan across the face. The force was so strong that it knocked him straight to the ground. Seeing this, the people around wanted to step forward to restrain me, but I hit them all back with the bouquet on the table. The moment I saw the doctor on rounds, I endured the pain in my stomach and got up to rush towards him. Ethan didn't expect me to do this suddenly and hurriedly tried to step forward to stop me, but I bit him on the wrist. All the hatred from my past life and this life erupted at this moment. In just 5 seconds, my mouth was full of the taste of blood. Ethan screamed in pain. Probably this hand would never be able to hold a scalpel again in this life. Where is my baby? My baby. Give her back to me. I want to see her alive, or her body if she's dead. If you can't produce her, I'll see you all in court. You all will go to jail. My shouts indeed attracted the families of the pregnant women outside the ward. Ethan endured the pain and got up to apologize to the onlookers outside the door. Sorry, everyone. My wife has just lost her baby and is a bit out of it. Darling, let me give you a sedative. You can't get angry in your current condition. Looking at the shiny needle, I remembered that in my previous life, Ethan had made me fall asleep like this, causing me to miss the best time to look for my baby. Darling, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Seeing Ethan approaching me step by step, I shouted, jealousy, behind him. Sure enough, hearing my shout, Ethan subconsciously turned his head. I quickly stepped forward to snatch the sedative and injected it into the hollow of Ethan's hand. Such a good thing should be used on oneself first. With that, I looked up and stared coldly at the relatives who still wanted to step forward to stop me. Seeing the blood of Ethan remaining on the corner of my mouth, these selfish people were so scared that they backed away continuously, fearing that I would vent my anger of losing the baby on them. I endured the pain in my stomach and deliberately walked into the corridor to shout at the top of my lungs. Someone has kidnapped my baby. Someone has run away with my baby. Hearing my words, the faces of the families of the pregnant women around showed obvious panic. They pointed at my nose and asked me to make it clear and not to talk nonsense here. I'm not talking nonsense. My baby was born fine, but they just wouldn't let me see her. They even lied to me that my baby was dead. Jealousy hurriedly ran up from downstairs, wearing her nurse's uniform, with security guards behind her. Before she even reached me, she shouted towards me. She's lying to you. She has mental problems. Don't be fooled by her. The baby died of oxygen deficiency. We didn't lie to her. Everyone, our hospital has been here for decades. Although it's a private hospital, its reputation over the years is obvious to all. As soon as jealousy said that, the people who had just been suspicious started talking among themselves in front of me. Alas, so pitiful. She's not in a good mental state after losing her baby. Yeah, such a big hospital couldn't possibly lie. This woman isn't afraid of being sued by the hospital. Lily, come back with us. Stop making a fuss. Jealousy pretended to be concerned and stepped forward to comfort me, wanting me to follow her and leave quietly. I spat on Jealousy's face. The next second, I lifted my hospital gown to expose the freshly stitched wound. There were pregnant women and their families waiting to give birth in front of me. Several of them were so scared by my wound that they closed their eyes. If my baby had really died, I wouldn't be like this. But I actually saw her survive. It's okay if it's just me, but it's you guys who will enter the operating room later. You can't just stand by and watch your own children be killed by the bad guys here. I stepped forward and grabbed a pregnant woman's arm, with tears in my eyes. Moreover, I suspect that they are not simply abducting children. They are trafficking the organs of our children. With that, Jealousy rushed forward in one stride and pulled me away directly. This crazy woman has mental problems. Don't believe her. I grabbed Jealousy's hand tightly and held my mobile phone high. She and my husband are a pair of adulterers. I was worried about my husband's safety and called the rescue team for him. Unexpectedly, I found them fooling around in the wilderness. They both work in this hospital and are in cahoots. Not only did they abduct my baby, but they also tried to kill me. And now they're slandering me as being mentally ill. While I was having the operation, the journalist who followed the rescue team sent me a rescue video. In the video, Ethan and Jealousy were doing something good but were startled by the suddenly appearing rescue team. The two of them directly cursed at the rescue team, and unexpectedly, it was all recorded by the recorder. The sound of the video came from the mobile phone, and everyone around widened their eyes. Seeing that Jealousy was about to rush forward to snatch the mobile phone with her eyes red, she was kicked away by an ant in the crowd. Dressed like a decent person, but actually a scumbag. We're all women. Do you like being a doormat that much? Do you like other people's husbands that much? I think you're the ones who caused all this trouble today. If the baby really died, why couldn't you just let her see it? The ant's words immediately caused a stir. There were pregnant women and their families all around. Seeing that I looked pale, a mother stepped forward to support me. He's right. We're all here to give birth. You must give us an explanation. I've already filmed it. I'll post it online later. If you don't give a reasonable explanation, your hospital can just wait to go bankrupt. Film. Film. Film the faces of these people. If anything happens to our children, they can't get away with it. The mothers and their families in the corridor rushed forward all at once, pointing their mobile phones at Jealousy's face to film. The security guards who were pushed to the corner unconsciously pushed forward, and suddenly someone shouted, "The doctors are hitting people. The hospital is hitting people." For a moment, Jealousy and the security guards were surrounded by a group of people in the corner and were being beaten. I was helped to sit quietly at the end of the corridor, watching everything in front of me and feeling a bit like laughing. The woman who had always been elegant now looked like a rat crossing the street. The next second, I took out my mobile phone. "Hello, I'd like to report a case. I suspect that someone is hiding drugs on children and using children to transport drugs." 2 hours later, I was sitting on a recliner, quietly waiting for my baby to be brought back. Ethan walked unsteadily down from the police car. The moment he saw me, there was blame and complaint in his eyes. Immediately after, Jealousy and Sean, both with bruised faces, also got out of the car. "Lily, why have you become like this?" At the first sight of me, Ethan's curses blurted out. According to his plan, I should have stayed quietly in the hospital. When I woke up, he would hand me a box of ashes, and tell me that it was the baby I had carried for 10 months. Just unexpectedly, the one who fell asleep was him. When he woke up, he saw the police standing in front of the door, and everything was out of his control. I curled the corners of my mouth slightly, smiling innocently. Didn't I become like this because of you guys? Ethan was so angry that his face turned red, and he immediately wanted to step forward to grab me, but before he could get close to me, he was pushed to the ground by the police. The sound of his knees hitting the ground made those who heard it feel the pain. Ignoring the pain in my stomach, I picked up a chair beside me and threw it at Ethan. People around didn't dare to step forward to stop me, fearing that it would worsen the surgical wound. "You want to be with Jealousy. Why did you steal my baby? You think you're noble. You think you're infatuated. Can you use my baby to please your mistress? Why did you give my baby to someone else? What does it have to do with you that she can't have children? Do you just want to give a baby to every woman you've slept with?" The chair in my hand hit Ethan's face and head again and again. Jealousy, standing aside, couldn't help but speak when she saw Ethan being beaten like this. "Lily, the baby is here. Stop hitting him." Hearing her voice, I looked up and stared at her coldly. I don't know where the strength came from, but I kicked out. The shoe on my foot flew towards Jealousy's face. Before she could react, she fell backwards onto the door with a thud. I don't know what Sean was thinking. Jealousy looked at him pitifully while lying on the ground. But he didn't react at all. Jealousy didn't know that during the time I was in the police station, I had sent her and Ethan's video to Sean intact. Sean looked down at jealousy on the ground, with disgust in his eyes. The next second, he blurted out, "Officer, I didn't abduct the baby. It was the two of them who did it." Ethan limped up from the ground and grabbed the hand of a police officer beside him. "Officer, I didn't abduct the baby. It's my own baby. If you don't believe me, ask Lily. It's our baby as a couple." Before I could dodge by myself, the police officer beside me had already helped drive Ethan away. I looked back at the police officer, tears streaming down my face. "Officer, I'm sorry. I lied, but I had no choice. I just had an operation and my stomach hurts terribly. They even wanted to give me a sedative." Ethan deleted all the surveillance footage in the hospital. If I hadn't said that jealousy was using my baby to traffic drugs, I was afraid. I was afraid that I would never find my baby. I was just too worried. Sorry. I was almost about to kneel in front of the police officer, but the next second they helped me up. Seeing how pale I was from the pain of the operation, the police officer just sighed and warned me not to do such a thing again. With that, 2 police officers stepped forward to take jealousy away. Seeing that she was about to be taken away, jealousy finally couldn't hold her temper. She suddenly threw herself into Ethan's arms. Wendy didn't get a sense of superiority from me after several attempts to test me and pulled a long face unhappily. Before she could throw a tantrum, Vincent came back. Getting the hint, Ethan nodded repeatedly, not caring that Sean was still there. "Yes, we are in that kind of relationship. I just saw that she liked kids so much, so I let her take care of the baby for 2 days. I didn't expect my wife to misunderstand and cause such a big mix-up. It's all my fault, all my fault." With that, Ethan knelt in front of me and slapped himself in the face again and again. He was saying words begging for my forgiveness. "I shouldn't have cheated on you, but I really didn't give the baby to her. Darling, I'm sorry. Darling, I'm sorry. I made you misunderstand." The man in front of me had shared the same bed with me for 5 whole years. Only at this moment did I realize that I seemed to have never really seen this person clearly. The cry of a baby at the door instantly caught my attention. A police officer was holding the baby, who had just finished the examination, and came to me. With a red face, my tears couldn't stop flowing the moment I saw her. In this life and the past life, this was the first time our mother and daughter had met. This time, I will accompany her to grow up well, I thought to myself. I originally thought that Ethan and the others would be charged with abducting children. However, because Ethan was the biological father of the child and jealousy was his affair partner, they could only be reprimanded verbally. Although I was a bit surprised by this result, I didn't feel too much regret. Anyway, the result I wanted to achieve had already been achieved in the hospital today. Today was the day when the integrity inspection team of Ethan's hospital came to make an inspection. With my commotion today, it was a small matter that Ethan and jealousy might lose their jobs, but it would be a big deal if they were blacklisted by the whole industry. After leaving the police station, I contacted the local media. "I want to break the news. There's a couple of scumbags who colluded and abducted my baby without telling the hospital. I have a video as proof." Sure enough, the next day Ethan came to the hospital to find me with a bouquet of flowers. The level of his cheekiness really surprised me. "Lily, will you forgive me? I really saw that jealousy was so pitiful, So you slept with her, so you gave my baby to someone else, so you made me walk to the hospital by myself to have the baby, right?" I interrupted Ethan. The flattering smile on his face froze instantly. "It's better that you came to find me. It saves me the trouble of going to find you in person after I'm discharged from the hospital." I took out the divorce agreement that I had asked someone to draw up from the drawer and threw it in front of Ethan. After seeing the name on the document, Ethan suddenly stood up. He could no longer hide his selfishness. "Didn't I just give the baby to jealousy? Isn't the baby yours alone? Without me, how could you possibly have given birth to a baby? Besides, we can have another baby in the future. Jealousy may never have a baby of her own in her whole life. Why are you so petty? You want to divorce me just because of this little thing. It's simply unreasonable." Ethan kept talking. When he mentioned the baby, it was as if the baby was just like a common cabbage in the vegetable market. I couldn't bear to listen anymore. I threw the vase on the table at Ethan's head. The face that hadn't even fully recovered from the swelling instantly oozed blood. Ethan walked towards me furiously. But when he saw the baby in my arms, the curses in his mouth were held back. Divorce is fine, but all the savings, the house, and the car will belong to me. The custody of the child will also belong to me. Don't forget that you're just a housewife. Even if the child is with you now, I can still take her away from you in the future. Ethan thought he had grasped my weakness, but to me, it sounded like a joke. I managed to hold back my laughter with difficulty, but my hands holding the baby couldn't stop shaking. Seeing me like this, the man sat down opposite me on his own, thinking that I was shaking with anger. He looked at me with a bright smile. If you really want to take the baby away completely, it's not impossible. You go to the hospital and explain. Say that you were already in a bad mental state, and you were so scared when giving birth yesterday that you said whatever came to your mind in the hospital, causing the patients and their families to misunderstand. Speaking of this, Ethan's emotions became more and more excited, and he even pointed directly at my nose and cursed. If it weren't for your scene yesterday, how could the hospital consider firing me? My reputation has been ruined by you. So that's how it was. It seemed that my act of scolding like a shrew yesterday wasn't in vain. Thinking of this, my mobile phone suddenly received a text message. Watch the news. The next second, a familiar face appeared on the TV in the ward. I glanced at the complacent man opposite me and then turned the volume up to the maximum. Ethan's smile froze on his face the moment he heard the sound. Sean was standing at the entrance of the hospital, being interviewed by journalists. I'm deeply sorry for my colleague's misdeeds. He cheated on his wife during marriage and even wanted to steal the baby and give it to his first love. As if to prove that what he said was true, Sean played the rescue video that I had sent him in front of the camera. The affair between Ethan and Jealousy was being watched in real time by people all over the country at this moment. We have been colleagues and good friends for many years. I trusted him very much. He asked me to give the baby to someone else. I thought it was just to let someone else take care of the baby first. Plus, the other party had been emphasizing to me that the person involved was in a bad mental state, so I didn't believe what the pregnant woman said. At all. With that, Sean kept saying sorry and bowing towards the camera. Lily, I'm sorry. I was deceived too. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sneer. He wasn't deceived at all. Clearly, he had seen through the affair between Jealousy and Ethan, so he was taking revenge. Thinking about it now, Ethan was really something. He could deceive his good friend for such a long time. I looked at Ethan's pale face opposite me and finally burst into laughter. Do you think you're still in a position to negotiate terms with me? After the interview with Sean was broadcast, the fragmented videos filmed by patients and their families in the hospital that day were also posted online. For a while, Ethan became the target of online abuse. Scumbag, you deserve to die. He treats the baby like a cabbage. If he likes his first love so much, why didn't he marry her? Such a person is so selfish. Just because he has an extra thing, he thinks he's so great. I'll beat up this couple of scumbags every time I see them on the street. The moment the hospital saw the videos, they completely decided to fire Ethan. Originally, it was just this one hospital that didn't want him. But once Ethan's story was exposed on the internet, there was no place for him in the whole industry. Even many extreme people went to the hospital on the day Ethan left and threw eggs and rotten vegetable leaves at him. Ethan was driven to a dead end and could only come to beg me again. This time, he didn't want anything except for me to post a video online forgiving him, and he hoped that netizens would stop cyberbullying him. Lily, for the sake of our marriage, will you please help me? I'm the father of the child too. The Ethan in front of me no longer had the high spirits he used to have. Even with a mask on, his face, which should have been fine, clearly showed signs of being beaten black and blue. I smiled faintly and slowly reached out to touch Ethan's cheek. Ethan was stunned for a moment, and a hint of smugness flashed in his eyes. Father of the child. Go to hell. How dare you have such nerve? With that, I slapped him across the face, catching Ethan off guard. I'm telling you, whether you want to get divorced or not, I will definitely sue you in court. Leaving the marriage with nothing is what you deserve. Once Ethan's story came out, many lawyers came to offer their services, even willing to do it for free to handle this lawsuit for me. Humiliated by the slap, Ethan became angry out of shame and immediately wanted to fight back, but before he could get close to me, he was pulled away by the security guards called up by my mother. Lily, I'm telling you. You'll come begging me in tears. I'm in this state because of you. I won't let you off. Ethan's angry shouts echoed throughout the corridor. A sense of unease gradually welled up in my heart, thinking of the baby who had just been taken away to take a bath. I was on high alert. However, when I rushed downstairs in a hurry, I couldn't find the nurse with a mask on or my baby. No matter how hard I looked, the next second, my mobile phone suddenly received a text message. If you don't want your baby to fall from the upstairs, come to me quickly. Immediately after, a photo with the background of the top floor of my house was sent. The baby, who should have been in the greenhouse, was now placed on the edge of the top floor. She would fall down with just one roll. The moment I saw the photo, my hands and feet went weak, and I almost fainted. Fortunately, I was supported by a nurse. Don't call the police, or you'll never see her again in your life. When I got to the top of the building, the baby's lips had turned purple from the wind. It felt like my heart was being pricked by needles. It's all because of you, you bitch. You made me lose my job, and my friends and family all despise me for being so embarrassing that they don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. Everyone is scolding me, thinking I'm disgusting. I'm in this state now because of you. Jealousy was extremely emotional. The moment she saw me, she held the baby in the air. Jealousy, don't be excited. The baby is innocent. Will you please give her back to me? It's all Ethan's fault. It's not me who hurt you. If you hate me, let me come over instead, okay? Let me take my baby's place. Unexpectedly, Jealousy sneered, paused for a moment with her hands, and my heart skipped a beat. She's also Ethan's child. As long as she dies, both of you will wish you were dead. No, Ethan doesn't care about her at all. I'm begging you, please give the baby back to me. I knelt in front of Jealousy, begging her to return the baby to me. Seeing that Jealousy's emotions were gradually calming down, I knelt and moved to her feet, looking up at her. You're right. The baby was slowly being pulled back by Jealousy. Just when she was about to reach my outstretched hands, the voice that I would never forget in my life came from above. But I don't want to listen. The next second, the baby was thrown down by her. Immediately after, the police rushed in from the stairwell. Before Jealousy could react, she was pushed to the ground. With the last bit of my strength, I lay on the edge of the top floor but didn't dare to open my eyes for a long time, until I heard the baby's cry. Fortunately, I called the police in time. The baby was protected by the police hidden in the residential building with a safety net in time. Except for being a bit frightened, everything else was fine. When leaving, Jealousy was being controlled by the police, walking towards the police car with her hair disheveled. What awaited her would be decades of prison life. Your karma has just begun. I said the last sentence to Jealousy in this life and the past life. She was still cursing behind me, but I acted as if I didn't hear her, only leaving her with my back as I walked away. On the day of the divorce, Ethan, with a stubbly face, sat opposite me. These days, facing the malice around him, Ethan had lost so much weight that he looked completely different. The moment he saw me, he knelt down in front of me with a thud. Crying with snot and tears, he pleaded, "Darling, don't get divorced, okay? Forgive me. Didn't you love me very much? We can start over. There will never be another Jealousy." Ethan was right about one thing. Once upon a time, I did love him wholeheartedly and had even fantasized about our happy life after having the baby. But he had ruined everything. Everyone knew about what had happened between Ethan and Jealousy. No matter how heartbroken he cried in court, the judge remained unmoved. We got divorced successfully. The house, the car, and the custody of the child all belonged to me. Of course, Ethan was not satisfied with this result. He immediately changed from the look of being full of regret and started cursing at me right in front of the judge. He even flipped over the table in front of him and was about to come and hit me. However, he was directly taken out by the bailiffs beside him without even touching my finger. I was immersed in the excitement of leaving that scumbag and starting a new life, but I didn't notice the malicious look in Ethan's eyes when he left. At the entrance of the court, I was about to get into the car with my baby in my arms. A cry of alarm came from behind me. Before I could turn around, I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder. When I looked up again, my clothes were already soaked with blood. The baby fell to the ground because of me and was crying loudly, but Ethan on the opposite side seemed as if he hadn't heard anything. It was as if the baby on the ground had nothing to do with him at all. "You made me like this. If I can't live a good life, neither can you. It's just a baby. What's the big deal? You made me into such a mess." "Oh, right, the baby. He's the real culprit." Ethan glanced at the wound on my shoulder. I was in so much pain that I could hardly exert any strength. Then he walked towards my baby step by step. "You little brat, you made your father like this. I'll kill you." The knife held high above Ethan's head glinted with a white light. I roared at him hoarsely. But it had no effect at all. 1 second before the knife was about to fall, a loud bang came from the distance. Ethan fell heavily to the ground, and the knife landed beside his feet. The police behind me rushed over hurriedly to help me up and brought the baby to me. Ethan was dead, with his eyes still wide open. He was wrong. Everything that happened to Ethan and jealousy was caused by themselves. Thanks to the blessing of God, I got a chance to start over. As if sensing the peace in my heart, the baby smiled at me for the first time. It seemed to be comforting me, and also seemed to be telling everyone that everything was over. Finally, we could live a good life. The end.